With Blade finally being released, we can now release a guide for him, and we're going to be talking about all the things that you possibly need to know in regards to Blade and how to use him at his max potential, with a couple of tricks, a couple of tips, and all the things that you need to know regarding his best Lightcone, his best relics, his kit, all the things that you possibly need to know. We're going to get into that right now. But before we get into all that, make sure to leave a sub and a like in the video if you're enjoying Honkai Star Rail, especially the new update, because I'm super excited to be playing it as well. But let's go ahead and start talking about Blade's kit. Now for Blade's kit, especially his basic attack, there's two different variations of it. One which is going to be regular, and one is going to be his enhanced basic attack that comes from his skill. Now his regular version does nothing but a regular hit, so there's nothing to really talk about. And let's go ahead and get into his skill so that we come back to his basic attack. With his skill, you're going to be consuming 30% of your max HP to enter Hellscape mode. Now with Hellscape mode, you are going to be increasing your basic attack's damage, and it's going to be staying that way for 3 turns. This skill will not take away your turn, nor will it give you any energy. So make sure that you understand this before you try thinking that you're going to get your ult and then die afterwards. But another thing that we do need to talk about is going back to the basic attack, because again, after you enter Hellscape mode, you will be able to get an enhanced basic attack, and with this enhanced basic attack, you are going to be consuming HP to be able to do more damage with your basic attack, and you will not be gaining any skill points from this attack. So there's one thing that you need to know is that you are going to be using 1 skill point, but with that 1 skill point, it will last you 3 turns. So you are going to be skill point neutral when it comes to those other 2 turns that you are going to be using with Blade, and it's going to overall help your skill point economy by a lot. Just because you aren't going to have to waste it all the time with Blade, you only need to use it once per 3 turns, and it's just overall really great. And it's going to overall play into his kit amazingly, just because consuming your HP is going to be something that we are going to be talking about in a quick second regarding the other 2 skills. Now for the ultimate, you are going to be doing damage in regards to 1 primary target and 2 adjacent targets, or whoever's next to that target, and you are going to be setting your current HP to 50% no matter what. So if you're above 50% HP, you're going to get lowered to 50% HP. If you're under 50% HP, you are going to be healing yourself up until 50% HP. These both have really great situations that you could put them in. One being when you're above 50% HP, you are going to be consuming your HP, which will play into the talent that we will be talking about in a quick second. And when you're under 50% HP, you will be also healing yourself, making sure that you're able to self-sustain yourself, meaning that you don't really need a really crazy healer to be able to help Blade heal himself, because he does get a lot of healing through his other abilities and also through his traces as well. So it's going to be very nice to have. And one thing to also note about the ultimate, depending on how much damage you've been taking throughout the battle, you are going to be doing more damage with Blade if you take a lot of damage before using it. So this will be reset as well after every ultimate. So every time you do your ultimate, they will recalculate every time you've taken damage and see how much extra damage they're going to be giving you. So although you don't really necessarily have to hold it, if you do end up holding it for a while, it will do a little bit more damage when you take damage and also use this ultimate. So this is really cool to look at. And then finally, one of his really cool things that he has is his talent. Now his talent is going to be a free follow-up attack when you end up taking 5 instances of damage, whether it come from your skill, whether it come from your basic attack, your ultimate when you're above 50% HP, or an enemy. There are numerous ways to get stacks for this, and when you end up hitting 5 stacks, you will end up doing your full AoE onto the enemy on your talent. Now there's one thing that you do have to note about this, that it will heal you after you use your follow-up attack. So this is one of the ways that you will be making sure that Blade doesn't basically one-shot himself with how many times he's going to end up losing HP. He doesn't really need a strong healer, because as I said before, he will be gaining his HP through various different ways, especially one being his follow-up attack, which will happen pretty often, especially if the enemies end up attacking Blade quite a bit. Now for the technique is going to be consume 20% of Blade's max HP and then do wind damage. Now this is going to overall just help you get the stack quicker, help you get your follow-up attack quicker. And if you have Luocha, using your skill, you're going to end up getting a stack for Luocha as well, because it will auto heal you once you use your skill with this. So this is an overall pretty good kit. They all synergize very well. He's not that hard to understand. He just has a lot of text in his skills. But let's go ahead and start talking about his Lightcone, because there are a lot of different options that you can use for this, and there are some that are a little bit less easier to notice than others. But for his best Lightcone, for sure, is going to be his signature, which is going to be the unreachable side, which is going to have increase the wearer's crit rate by 18% and increase the max HP by 18%. When the wearer is attacked or consumes their own HP, which is going to happen 100% of the time, their damage increases by 24%. This effect is removed after the wearer uses an attack. which being said, you do need to reproc this every time you want that crit rate and that max HP buff, which is going to be very easy. Either you take a hit or you do your basic attack, your skill, your ult, or anything that he lowers his HP with, and you're going to end up getting the stats back. So this is overall just an amazing light cone. This is one of the very few that's going to end up giving you HP to be able to scale with Blade's actual damage, because Blade does use HP to be able to scale, not really attack. He uses a little bit of it, but HP is where it's at, and this is one of the few light cones that actually give it. So this is going to be a very strong option for him. Now for the rest of the light cones that are in the lineup, the second best in my honest opinion, and yes, I'm skipping some 5 stars because they do not have exactly what Blade needs, is going to be a secret vow, which is going to be Arlen's 4-star. This is going to have increased damage dealt by the wearer by 20%, and this is static. There is no condition. You will always have this as long as you have the light cone on. The wearer also deals an extra 20% of damage to enemies who has higher health than you. So this is very easy to be able to proc for sure, just because Blade is able to reset himself down to 50% HP anytime he wants to through his ultimate. He also consumes it through his skill, through his basic attack. So there's a lot of different ways to lower your HP under from what the enemies have. So having 40% extra damage from Super Imposition 1 Secret Vow, this is very strong, especially if you end up having Super Imposition 5 version of this. You're going to get a lot of damage from this. Now the reason I say this is probably one of his best substitutes for his signature is because it doesn't necessarily give you attack, which is something he really doesn't need. Just because with attack, you are gonna end up wasting those stats. He scales slightly off of it and not entirely like uses it. So you do want HP and you do want damage buff. And with the secret vow, he gives you a fat ton of that damage buff, which is gonna end up working a lot more than the attack you could get from everywhere else. Now when it comes to other light cones that are a little bit more accessible, the Herta light cone that is destruction 5-star is going to end up being a pretty good option as well, just because it will be increasing your attack every time you attack. And then other than that, when you do hit a weakness break on an enemy, you are going to get a damage buff of 12%, which again, as I said, this is going to help Blade a lot more than the attack. So this is also a reasonable option to put on. Other than that, there isn't a lot of crazy other cards that you can put on Blade that are going to work exceptionally well other than the ones I've already talked about. There are ones like the Most Welcome You that give you a bunch of attack, which again, I said, is not going to help you that crazy much, but it will end up helping a little bit other than having low light cone. And then the other ones that are going to end up helping a lot more are going to be the Under the Blue Sky, increase wearer's attack and give you crit rate when you defeat an enemy. I don't really like light cones that require you to do certain things to get the passive off, and especially when they're turn limited as well, it kind of hurts the character in my honest opinion. But getting the extra attack and the crit rate when you do end up defeating an enemy isn't bad, so Under the Blue Sky can work as well. And then the 3-star options, which of course I hope you're not using these, but if you necessarily have to, they both are pretty good for Blade, because the Mutual Demise is going to give you extra crit rate when you are lower than 80%, which is going to be almost 100% of the time. And then Collapsing Sky is going to give you basic attack damage, which is going to be the majority of your damage through your skill. So there's going to be overall all the substitutes that you can put for Blade. As I said before, Secret Vow, his signature are going to be the very best, with the Herta Light Cone Shop also being one of the better light cones for him. Other than that, all of these kind of give him stats that he doesn't need, and overall not going to help him as much. So those are going to be your substitutes for his signature when it comes to his light cone. When talking about his traces, we are going to be seeing where he gets his healing from and his damage, because one of them is going to be damage dealt by the talent's follow-up attack is increased by 20%. So this is a very important one to unlock as well. For the other one is going to be when Blade's current HP is 50% of his max HP or lower, incoming healing increases by 20%. This is a very good one, of course, to make sure that he doesn't die, to be able to make sure that he heals himself appropriately, to be able to make sure he has enough health in regards to taking hits from enemies. Because remember, he does want to take hits. You aren't going to really want to put shields on him because he does want those follow-up attack stacks. And last one is going to be if Blade hits a weakness broken enemy with his enhanced basic attack, he will restore HP equal to 5% of his max HP plus 100. So yes, I said before, he is going to heal himself a lot through his own kit. He doesn't really need the best healer in the world to be able to sustain him. He is self-sustainable. You can put Natasha, you can put Bailu in there instead of Luocha 100%. Now Luocha does synergize very well with Blade in my honest opinion, but you don't necessarily need to run the Luocha with Blade. Natasha and Bailu be 100% fine, just because Blade does get a lot of healing by himself. Now when it comes to the relics that you are going to want to run on Blade, 1000% you are going to want Longevious Disciple. This is just his signature set, is overall his best set, And not only that, the other set that comes from this domain is going to be very good as well for support characters, so there's nothing wrong with grinding this one out. For the 2-piece set, it is going to give you max HP by 12%, and for the 4-piece set, you are going to be getting around 16% crit rate when you end up losing HP twice or getting hit twice. This is overall a very strong relic set to run on Blade. Now for the stats that you want, well, of course, it's going to be average DPS stats on your substats, which is crit rate, crit damage. And for the actual main stat pieces, you are going to want to make sure that you have crit damage at least on your chest piece, just because he does give a lot of crit rate on his trace nodes. His signature has crit rate, and through his eidolons he has crit rate as well. So there's a lot of different options, and also this set as well gives crit rate. But there's a lot of options to give crit rate to Blade. Of course, not everyone's going to have eidolons, not everyone's going to have the signature light cone for him, but he is going to be getting 16% free from this set. So you don't really have to prioritize hardly on crit rate, just because he does get it through his trace nodes as well. So crit damage chest piece would be the absolute best to put on him, but if you can only afford to give him crit rate because you have nothing else, then go ahead and do that as well. For his boots, he is going to want HP, because again, he does scale off of HP, and putting this with crit rate, crit damage is going to be the best you can put on him. For his orb, he does want to have wind damage boost, and for his rope, he does want HP as well, because again, he does scale off HP, not attack, and with crit rate, crit damage substats, he's going to do absolutely amazing. Now there is a question that a lot of people have been asking, whether it becomes to use the Rutilant Arena, which is going to be the brand new planar ornament set, or to use Inert Salsotto. In all honesty, he does end up using both of these perfectly, just because through this one, he is going to be getting extra crit rate from the planar ornament, same with Salsotto. And then for this one, he is going to be getting basic attack damage increase, which is going to be a big bulk of your damage, because he is going to be doing that for the majority of all his turns. And then with Inert Salsotto, ultimate and follow-up attack is a big source of damage as well. So to be honest, what I can say when in regards to should you use Inert Salsotto versus Rutilant Arena, they both equal to each other. Whichever one you get first, whichever one you grind it out first or you have available parts for, go ahead. But in all honesty, if you don't have either or, you should probably grind out the brand new Simulated Universe, just because it does come with that other set as well, which is pretty good on supports, which is going to end up helping you a lot in grinding out better relics for your supports and also get something for Blade. So if you have nothing, Rutilant Arena might be the better one to grind out. But if you already have Inert Salsotto pieces for Blade, I think Inert Salsotto will work just fine on him as well. Now when it comes to his best teams, for sure, it's going to end up being a basically hyper carry team for Blade. Basically the ones that are going to be full debuffing the enemies, or ones that are going to be buffing the heck out of Blade. One of his very best teams for 100% is going to be something like Blade, Bronya, Silverwolf, and Luocha, because Bronya is going to be able to give him his turn way earlier, also give him the crit damage increase plus the damage increase as well. Silverwolf is going to be able to implant wind onto the enemy, making sure Blade does a max amount of damage to that enemy when he's basically shredding the shield with how many times he's going to be attacking. And Luocha, well, he's Luocha, one of the best healers in the game. Of course, you can switch out Luocha for any healer. As I said before, Blade doesn't really need that much healing. He doesn't really require the hardcorest of healers to be able to keep him alive. He's pretty great self-staining. And when it comes to 4-star options that you could put with Blade, you can use characters like Tingyun, Pella. These are characters that are easily able to be put on to Blade's team. Any character basically that's going to be giving you buffs and also be able to debuff the enemy, these are going to be 100% fine with them. I know I said Tingyun, which is like, oh, why are you putting an attack percent buffer to Blade? Well, there's no other character that you can really put on that's going to make a huge difference for Blade, because you don't want any characters that are going to give you shields. You don't want any characters that are going to take away taunt from Blade, because Blade does want to get hit. So you do have very limited options in what you can put for Blade. But Tingyun is going to be able to give him a damage dealt increase. He's going to give him a super quicker. He's going to be able to give him attack buff and the lightning damage instance as well. So there's nothing really wrong with adding Tingyun to the team. And Pella, she has overall good AoE defense shred. And with his follow-up attack, he hits the whole wave anyways as well. So having that AoE defense shred, having Blade's follow-up attack that hits everyone, they both pair up pretty well, and they both are going to end up doing a lot of damage. So these are going to be pretty much the best teams that you can run with Blade. Now there are a couple of tips that you can learn with Blade that's going to help you understand how to use them a little bit more and to be able to be efficient with how you use your team. Now for Blade, he does have his 3-turn skill that he's going to be giving you that enhanced basic attack. If you ever want to know how long until you have it left, you are going to be seeing a blinking box at the bottom of your character, where it's going to show you that this is your last turn with Blade's enhanced basic attack. So you do want to keep a skill point on hand just so that you're able to rebuff him up when it's his turn. So this is something that you do want to take note of. Another thing is that with his ultimate, again, with it putting your HP up to 50%, if you have above 50% HP, you can use this to be able to decrease your health and also count as a stack for your follow-up attack. So this is really good to know in regards to how to use Blade, and some really small tips that could end up helping you either clear a memory of chaos or something harder with the extra damage that you're going to be doing with Blade. Blade is an overall amazing character, super hard hitter, super good self-sustain unit. He's just a crazy character, all in one package for all that he does. He's super fun, amazing design, super cool character. But other than that, that's pretty much it in regards to the guide for Blade. He isn't that hard to explain, in all honesty. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. See you on the next one. Hopefully you enjoyed this guide and have fun in version 1.2. Peace.